This video is not for whales and dolphins. It's for you, because you are just like me. Average Jack Gamer here, and today I want to talk about the first limited S-rank husbando, Lighter. So let's start with the biggest question, which is, where on earth am I going to put Sniffboo? And the answer is, everywhere. Moving on. Let's start talking about Lighter, his kit, and how he's going to fit in with the existing characters. Now, for starters, we already knew that Lighter was going to be a fire stun agent, but during the stream, it was confirmed that he will provide buffs for fire and ice damage, which is extremely interesting because from a team building perspective, it makes him pretty flexible. It was mentioned on the live stream that he only needs there to be an attack or a Sons of Kaladin agent in order for him to activate his passive, which means that he could end up being a great stunner on an Ellen team as well as a Soldier 11 team. So I think that the fire and ice buffage is kind of the core of his kit, and I think it shows how he is supposed to be played, which means that in terms of existing stun agents, and this is all speculative, but I imagine he'll be better than all of them in any team supporting a fire or ice DPS, which is weird because we do already have an S-rank ice buffing stun agent in Lycan, but Hoyo seems to love putting out these characters with overlapping roles at the moment, but where the limited S-rank, in this case Lighter, will offer additional flexibility as he will also buff fire and potentially be better than Lycan. So if you already have Lycan for your Ellen, then Lighter's kit may not do enough though for you to make the upgrade. However, if you haven't got Lycan at this point, then it may be time to consider Lighter, as 300 pulls on the standard bar to get him might still feel like a long way off. And as a standard S rank, Lycan isn't going to be getting his own banner, or maybe you just feel like getting someone else when you hit 300 pulls, and that's okay. Now, I'm going to talk through the rest of Lighter's kit in a sec, and then I'll move on to how I think he'll work in the future, including with Miyabi, but you may have noticed that I pronounced Lycan correctly. It's easy. I just remember it's the same as like and subscribe to support small creators like me on YouTube. Thank you for all the support so far. You guys are awesome. You should also like in the Discord and like in Twitch. No, that doesn't work, but hopefully you understand. So the next most interesting thing about Lighter's kit is that he has a mechanic that allows him to raise his impact once his morale is high enough, which is indicated by the bar under his name. Now, I do think this is a cool mechanic, but when I first saw it, I realized that it drains very fast in use, so I thought it might be something that you use kind of sparingly, but later in the video, it does show how fast it goes up when he's off field, and it does go up pretty quickly. And I think maybe slightly faster when he's off field, but we didn't have much footage to show a direct comparison between him being on field and off field for the regeneration of it, but here's the best I can do. He also has a quick assist that looks pretty important for him, as in it lets him jump straight into his morale boost mode and therefore dealing the additional impact. So this might be the best way to start the morale usage, as normally the morale burst would only be following the 5th hit of his basic attack chain, so this might be the fastest way to jump straight to that point. Now, his EX special actually wasn't mentioned within the footage. I only saw one occasion where it was used because of the energy going down, and it looks like it's a Street Fighter style jumping uppercut, which looks sick, but because they didn't call it out when running through his kit, I assumed it didn't add anything to his morale bar. However, when watching back the footage, I noticed that his morale bar did jump up when it was used, indicating that it also gives him a chunk of morale to get him back to that higher impact state, which is great and just a little odd that it wasn't mentioned, but I guess they want to keep things moving for the live stream and not everyone is as nerdy as me. They also showed his ult and said it did damage in daze, and as with all ult animations, it looks fab, but I could only really see myself using a stun agent's ultimate if/when we get the change to allow them to build up their own ultimates, unless it does a ridiculous amount of damage, which seems unlikely. I also think as well that these newer characters may be being released with that change in mind, so ults for the newer characters may feel a tad underwhelming, as they should be being balanced with the idea that at some point, potentially all characters could build up their own ultimates. Moving on now to consider Lighter's place in the current meta. As mentioned earlier, because of his fire and ice buffs, he'll work well with fire and ice attacking agents, so Soldier 11 and Ellen are the first that come to mind, and I don't imagine he'll be challenging Chingy anytime soon in a Judy-Wan team. But if you are running something a little more unusual, maybe you've stacked a bunch of energy regen on Bernice, he could work well to support her there too. I do think it's a tad odd that he buffs fire and ice though, and his Sons of Kaladin teammates don't have a straightforward fire or ice damage dealer. Yes, he could make on-fielding Bernice much more viable, but it seems like for now he'll be best played outside of his faction, but this could potentially indicate in the future that Big Daddy, who has appeared in the story, may very well be a fire or ice attack agent. I mean, he's a red pig though, so he's probably a fire agent. So let's move on now to considering the future. Let me guess, you're thinking about how Lighter might be really good with Miyabi. And in my last video, I mentioned that I think Miyabi is going to be an attack character over an anomaly one, and it's time to immediately say that I could be wrong. Lighter is launching at the end of 1.3, and historically in Genshin and Honkai Star Rail, reruns have started in 1.4. So if we were to get an Ellen rerun in 1.4, it would make sense for them to run Lighter just before. Heck, even in his demo footage, they showed him with Ellen. So it's not too crazy to make that leap. And then we get to Miyabi. Now, I'm hoping for a bit of a break from Anomaly, not because I don't enjoy it, but more because I'd like to have something different. Hence my bias towards her being an attack agent. But if reruns do start and Ellen is going to be in 1.4, it feels more likely for Miyabi to be an Anomaly agent. Now again, she could be either attack or Anomaly, but if she is an attack, then we'll see her work well with Lyta because he only wants her to be an attack agent for his core passive. But if she's an Anomaly agent, Lyta will want a Sons of Kaladin teammate, and he buffs fire and ice. So stay with me here, as this is a pretty expensive team, but Lyta, Bernice, and Miyabi, with Lyta buffing both fire and ice. It could be one of the best teams in the game for these characters whose kits we don't even fully know yet. So it's really all guesswork. And a pure support in Lyta's role would normally be the better choice, but the fact that he'll buff both of their elements feels like it would have huge potential in that slot. Now, you could try Piper or Lucy or maybe Caesar here instead of Bernice to keep Lyta's core passive up, but we also don't know what Miyabi's requirements for her core passive will be. So it's tough to say at this early stage, although based on past Anomaly S ranks, I don't think it would be too crazy to suggest that she would probably want a Section 6 teammate or another Anomaly character, or maybe an Ice character. But if it's an Anomaly character that she wants, then in theory the Bernice team should work. Now, there also is an argument that Anomaly characters don't really need stun in order to work well, but it isn't going to hurt. And like I mentioned, a pure support might usually be better, but I think if Lyta can take advantage of the fact that he'll be able to buff both of the characters, then it could just be massive. But this really is hugely dependent on unconfirmed Lyta kit details and Miyabi kit details. But it is fun to think about, because Miyabi could then function in a more on-field role, with Bernice enabling disorders for her, providing the link to Lyta, and Lyta buffing both of their damage. Not only that, but Lyta doesn't want to be on-field all the time until the enemy is stunned, because he'll want to build up his morale. At any rate, I know it's 3 limited S ranks, so it's unlikely that most free-to-play or low-spend players could really consider it, but eventually we will have played for long enough to start considering 3 limited S rank teams, and for day 1 free-to-play or low-spend players, that could be just before the end of 1.4. Now, if Miyabi is Anomaly, potentially Yanagi could work relatively well with her. I imagine they might be fighting for field time though, but they could kind of quick swap dual DPS, and then you could run someone supportive with them, maybe Sukaku, and I can see that working well. I also think that she could still be an attack agent though. So yeah, I'm in 2 minds, guys, and I really don't know which way it will go. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Anyone who gets upset at me saying she could be Anomaly or she could be attack is probably going to pull for her anyway. But we should get more info on her way before Lyta even comes out, so we'll be in a much better place to make the call on Lyta if you specifically wanted him for Miyabi. In fact, we normally get drip marketing for the patch after next before the end of the current patch, so I would think in a week or 2 we'll know her agent type at least. Anyway, what do you guys think? Am I cooking with the Lyta Miyabi team, or am I cooked? If you want to know my early thoughts on Yanagi, another video should pop up now. Also, remember when Lyta was meant to be an attack agent? Just saying. Anyway, remember to like and subscribe for better than average luck on your pulls. Pull responsibly. Like and Discord, like and Twitch. Bye.